The practitioners on this show are building hardware. Robots, medical devices, lab automation, electric vehicles, consumer products. They are using AI. Some of it is genuinely changing what is possible. Some of it is not working the way anyone says it is. And most of them have a sharper read on both sides than anything you'll find in the mainstream conversation. This is the Why Design AI compilation.
AI fundamentally makes you a little bit dumber when you use it most of the time. And other tools do not. If I pick up a hammer, there are many learning opportunities with a hammer, especially if I'm unskilled with a hammer, right? And you could say that AI might have some learning opportunities. The problem is you don't feel any pain except for occasional rage.
Where AI genuinely changes hardware work. Set aside the hype for a moment. 3 guests on moments where AI actually moved the needle on a physical product in ways that would not have been possible in any other way.
Well, it's something very, very close to our hearts because our early prototypes, and I think this might be the same for many businesses, it's our early prototype was very hard coded. So you take it into the operational environment, and every time it hits an anomaly or an edge case, you've got to write another piece of code and you've got to reconfigure the stack. And so every error is a real disaster. And as you move to learning systems and generative AI, then and I think this is a journey that we're on. Every edge case becomes an opportunity, a learning opportunity, right? So you get to the point where you're deploying a pretty dumb product and it's learning, and you can put AI across the whole stack. So we've got robots operating in the fields, and we can put AI into the perception stack and detecting raspberries and ripeness, or we could put it into how it moves and how it navigates around obstacles. We can put it in many different layers, and then everything is an opportunity. Every time you pick and you hit a new variety or a new environmental condition, you learn, you share it with the rest of the robots, and it improves. And that's what I find really exciting about where AI is going at the moment.
You know, I got to tell you, I trusted the people that were on the decisions of what we needed. So the first thing I did was a crash course, and I would write down everything they'd say. I'd say, hey, we need, a Raspberry Pi board. We need this, we need SDK software written and all this stuff. We need, all these, accesses, and they would give me this description. And the first thing I would do is jump online and go, okay, what does that mean? Right. And I would study, what does SDK stand for? So I could put it in my terms to say, okay, next time I'm on a call and somebody says I need an SDK. Okay, well, that means software development kit, right? Well, I didn't know that 6 months ago. But I had to learn those terms in order to talk to my engineers, talk to my, my IT guys, right? So when I went to CES, I had this knowledge of something, right? So I could talk about, hey, we're using Linux and Raspberry Pi and Java, and it's on an SDK, and we're going to try, and I started to become the project, right? So my whole entire life was, not about anything like that. So I really had to do a lot of crash course studying. And thank God for the internet. I mean, I was able to really go through and say, okay, what does this mean, and what's going to be the hurdle? Somebody asked me a few months ago, what do I use AI for? I use AI to learn, to go through this and say, what are the 2 technicals that I may be missing? And it's very nice to have a second view and share with me, this is why it's not going to work, or this is why it's going to work, or this is what you need to do to make it work.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of figure outable stuff now, with AI, as long as you can know roughly where you're going and what the output needs to look like.
Yeah.
I had coffee with a industrial designer earlier this week, and he was telling me about a project that he was doing as a puzzle project, and he was programming the circuit board. He was doing the firmware and the software, getting all the motors to work. And he'd never touched that in his life, but because he knew what he wanted the thing to do, he knew how to articulate that to Claude to get it to write code.
Well, I also work with coders and things like that. It's not my world, but I know what the end vision should be, and my job is to put all the pieces together to get to that.
Yeah.
And I just think time and the international experience and being able to work across different kind of media. I mean, I'm personally comfortable in the industrial design medium, the research. I'm also, full-on photographer, filmmaker as well. I'm comfortable with all of those things.
There's a lot of stuff you've figured out.
Now, as a director, I'm able to be a little bit more involved in some business decisions, both tactical and strategic. I'm very excited about that, particularly strategic part, obviously, because that's one of my strengths. And I'm also particularly excited to see how the things I've implemented so far in the design team are going to come together. I had a big vision when I started, but you put all these things in place and then you hope that it comes together. And I think it is. The fact that I am now spending a little bit less time, I hope to enjoy seeing my team taking stepping up and being able to create really exciting products and innovations that we can be really proud to present to the world in the coming years. So those are the two main things. Is like the seeds I've planted, how are they gonna turn up, and the things I'm learning that are ahead of me and how I can learn but also influence, and that excites me a lot.
The honest critique. All three of those examples are real, but the same guests and others are equally direct about where the technology falls short and why the easy comparisons to other tools do not quite hold up.
I've not found LLMs particularly transformative, because a lot of what I need to do the process to solve the problem. If I can write it in a prompt, I've solved the problem. But it's harder to do it in text for me than it is just to go and build it. Good designers are just people who can articulate why that quality is good to someone who maybe can kind of sense it but can't see it in definitive terms. I just can't see how an LLM's going to do that. I worry on being, AI will never take my job. AI can't find a bloody invoice in my inbox at the moment.
We're still finding our feet with it in terms of where it fits and why. And like you said, how you control it to make sure you get the output and steer it in the process. But it's like two things at the same time for me. It's like near term, like you said, how you leverage it from like a prompting, generation, supporting process point of view. And then longer term, like it's this anticipation that, say it becomes agentic and can work 24/7 and like run tasks without continuous input or like supervision. What that looks like is like a whole, I think at that point, it becomes like almost collaboration potentially as well. It's hard to see and like hard to like know, but like if it genuinely gets to like AGI level intelligence, then there's no reason why it wouldn't become more of a collaborator, and that's going to be a whole other thing. And again, I just feel quite thankful we're not a huge company, because I think it's going to be massively disruptive, basically the bigger you are. And I do believe that like design will exist beyond where AI is going. Like I just don't think it will change, but I'd be more worried if I was in like digital design or UX UI. And I think you look back over history, like the physicality and meaning we put into objects has existed since we've existed. And I don't think we're suddenly going to not care about human meaning and how that's represented in three-dimensional form. So personally, not worried, but I would probably arguably be more worried if I was more digitally leaning.
But my problem is it's scary believable rather than scary accurate. Right? Like that's the thing that is totally annoying, and also the reason why it's ultimately pretty much a dead end. And we are going to have to do a lot to improve AI for more general use. It turns out though that people are enormously bullshit tolerant, which is unfortunate, right? Because as Yuval Harari would say, it's really cheap to make up bullshit. It's really expensive to discern truth. And AI is really expensive way of getting a sort of 70-30 bullshit truth mix.
No, I mean, listen, controversial is, listen, what we need to be doing is we need to make sure that we don't leave it up to AI to solve all of our problems. So I think we're going to come, the younger generation shouldn't just phone it in, as we say. That's probably an out of date reference as it is, or chat GPT it, or,
Yeah.
they should make sure that they do the work, because that's what design is about. And if you're using a large language model, no matter how good it is, it's going to find the average. It's going to find the safe thing. So, in fact, I can tell you specifically a reference to something that we just had a really interesting conversation. So we talked about the founders of IDEO, the current managing director of IDEO, Mike. I met in Athens, Greece, of course, of all places, at a forum that I was at, and I was speaking at, called the House of Beautiful Business. So, and the topic was AI. And so the conversation was exactly that. Because of large language models it's all about the data, right? They're going to find sort of the average of averages. So if you look at it as a curve, so a little bit of geeky mathematics at this point, right? So it's about, AI is going to be in the middle, So the bell curve is here. It's going to probably be within that space. But as designers, what we want to be working for and designing for are the folks outside. So the outliers. So if we're talking about inclusive design, it's never the people in the middle. It's about the outliers, right? And so that's what we want to be working for in terms of solutions as well, right? So that's where AI does not do a good job right now, right? Because they can't. It's not in the model. It's not there. So as designers, we need to make sure that the younger generation doesn't phone it in, doesn't prompt it, but actually does the work themselves. So that's what I would think we should do. So in terms of a design, the other thing that I think we should do is do a better job of collaboration. Now, yes, we're doing better than we did, but we still got a long ways to go.
LLMs are just massive heuristic engines. They just predict the next token with some probability. They're like a pachinko machine on the scale of the solar system. If you've ever seen those Japanese gambling machines with the little balls that come down around the pins, well, imagine that, the size of the solar system, and you're kind of at the right scale for just how many pathways the little balls can go through in a large language model. Well, it's not only bonkers, it's impossible to figure out how any particular conclusion was reached. Like, it works well enough that humans are kind of pleased by this toy.
This episode is sponsored by Vax and TTI Floor Care. And Kodu, my company, is running the hiring I'm about to describe. So you know exactly what this is. And this is why I wanted to make it anyway. I've recruited for Vax for more than 10 years. Over 50 people, including a VP of engineering and a head of design. I know that building well. Right now, they are rebuilding their UK engineering and innovation function from the ground up. Advanced development, design engineering, and industrial design, all at once. I've not seen them move at this pace in a decade of working with them. So I'm going to tell you what is actually happening, and you can decide. The bad mandate problem. The problem is not just that AI has real limitations. It's that executives are driving AI mandates through organizations without a clear brief. 2 guests on what that looks like from inside a team.
Yeah, but within this year, we're going to get rid of 8,000 team members, and you're going to choose 15% of your team who's going to be let go and replaced with AI. It's like, well, that's a terrible creative brief, And again, coming back to design thinking, like, what are the constraints? Oh, I have to lay off 15% of my team. That's the constraint, but for what purpose? Like, what are the tools? So that's really what I think this is challenging design leaders and managers to think about.
But actually, everything else is constantly being updated. or someone's just slapping AI onto something badly considered. You're using up someone's change tolerance and educational sort of bandwidth on stuff that you had no plan to do. So I'm actually just trying to protect the core of what we're doing, which hasn't really changed that much, but still be able to communicate with each other, file stuff away in the same way. It's really basic stuff, but it seems to get harder and harder with all these new tools in a weird way. I'm worried I'm just turning into a grumpy old man. But
AI in hiring. This is a topic close to home. The same AI wave is reshaping how people are hired and how they apply. And in the hardware sector specifically, the tools have a problem that goes way beyond bad CVs.
I imagine AI is making things worse as well. Like I've seen your AI job descriptions and then people using AI to apply and write their CVs. It's just like
AI's, it's a great tool. I use it every day. I've used it to prepare my notes for our conversation today. I use it to summarize, the profiles of candidates that I then go and talk to my clients about. But it's a tool and it's a guide. I still deliver it kind of as me. And when I get emails from people at all levels and messages, and it sticks out like a sore thumb when they've used AI to craft it, because there's tropes, there's things like your work as a founder at Kodu is exemplary, and it's all just like no one talks like that. No.
And there's the classic one is always like, it's not just this, it's this, like that one was like, it's like the Marks and Spencer's advert. It's always like, this isn't just M&S, this is blah, blah, blah. That's just it all the time. But I also found as well, like, I'm the same, like, I've written a few blog posts for Automata, and I write them myself first before then passing them through. And then I even end up having to, like, edit what it does, even though I'm very quite strict on what I tell it to do and not do. Because you still want it to sound differentiated. I struggle when I go on LinkedIn now because all the posts are written by AI and they all read the same and sound the same and nothing stands out. But then also I find if you then become too reliant on it, you lose the sharpness and to actually write or think creatively. We've got a bit of a tangent there, but yeah. I think
the expert in the loop view. So when does AI work? The consensus, spoken or implied, across every guest on this topic is the same. You need someone in the room who knows what the answer should look like.
Then it's a tool, because there's at least one other human with subject matter expertise in the loop. Then it's a potent tool. It should come with a safety warning. Don't go in alone. Because loneliness, by the way, is one of the great killers. It's up there with not washing your hands to kill you. Like loneliness will do more harm to you than a high-fat diet and a drinking problem put together.
Across the board and probably more senior, I think it wouldn't hurt if you were like more of a specialist than a generalist. And that might be different in different businesses, but I feel like AI is going to become that like generalist layer that's connecting, almost like the connective tissue between everyone. But it's not. I think one thing it's definitely going to struggle with nearer term is like the physicality of product development. Like if you're great at hands-on model making, prototyping, testing, or the end of the process, mechanics, like it's not going to tap into that near term. I think to answer it like how we're shaping up is like, I do have a bit of like a AI strategy that kind of is known between the team here, where we kind of accept that like from an intelligence level, it's going to become a layer. It's going to become part of our process of where we check ideas against or run ideas through, and it will integrate with everything. But the way I'm setting it up, and I think it's fortunate we're a smaller team, is I'm almost different people are going to act as different heads of different things. Again, where they have a specialism, whether that's visualization, sort of DFM, creative judgment, sort of design language, community, events, like we'll leverage it, but there will be different owners that like will almost own what I perceive eventually will be the normalization of like agents that work for them. So I think in a junior level, I think that means you're going to have to be way more comfortable with making decisions and delegating, which sounds weird to do when you're like new to something. But I think with AI, that's going to be important. So I think having like self-confidence that you can give direction and also make the right decisions and show that you're capable of making the right decisions will become more important. That's not really been a junior skill before. And then another reflection on that, particularly from a design point of view, is that I find with a lot of juniors, you have to, like, if you're designing for a certain company and a certain design language and identity, it might differ from what you actually like. And it takes a while to get people to be able to switch off what they like at a moment of designing something so that they can kind of evaluate what they're designing for that brand or against that identity independently of what they like. And it can take years for someone to sort of make that journey where they're judging an idea as an idea and not holding on to it as their idea and pushing it because it's their idea. It's like diminishing that like ego sense of self with the idea. And I think that if you can show that as a junior, that'll be a good skill set. Because again, if you're going to have to give direction and make decisions, being able to take yourself out of it and be able to see it and understand the bigger picture, there's a certain like maturity to that. They're all quite difficult things because I think if anything, you can already see this in how like what's happening with where jobs are shifting towards senior and away from junior, that they all tend to be like psychological traits that lean towards people that have a certain maturity, that have had a certain amount of life experience, and then that benefits that. But at the same time, you can have someone who's young, who's had a lot of life experience and they've learned a lot and they can be mature for their years. So I think that maturity probably become more important rather than less important, I think.
Yeah, I think it's really about like, this particular course is like for design leaders is really to teach designers how to make confident decisions about AI. So like it's like you're current leading designers or design initiatives. You're tired of all this hype. You want honest, practical guidance. You need frameworks that can help you evaluate all those different opportunities, not just tutorials. And like, how do you make smart decisions about AI when you're not an engineer? Right? When none of us can predict the future. And so how do you learn this? And that's really, how do you know what's hype versus what's real? How do you know what cost structures are? When should you say yes? When should you say no? Like, these are some of the things that I think are really the most important.
It's funny. I'm a really strong believer of being in. So maybe I got the post-COVID piece of being like, oh my God, working from home is a terrible idea. But in products in particular, so I think you're definitely right. The tech roles, the kind of ancillary roles, a lot of them can be done remotely. That's absolutely brilliant. It makes such like massive sense. I think one of the key learnings for me as a first-time founder and a first-time founder in medical devices is this piece of building products and having your hands on the products as much as possible and having as many of the engineers knowing, what goes where, which glue was used, was it UV, was it epoxy, was it, and so if you lose that piece and only have one or two people that can do that, you're very vulnerable actually. So I totally agree with you. There's a real benefit to it, but it is, and I actually think it's why medical devices is getting harder and harder, because more and more people are looking at roles that can be remote and how they can manage that. But in Ireland, actually, Anna, this is a very large segue, but the applications for healthcare-based courses in university have gone up by threefold or something. This because I think it's obviously kids seeing that like AI is taking a lot of grad jobs. So now I think you're going to see people kind of moving back to physical world jobs.
So that's 10 guests across 10 episodes. All of them are working in or around physical products. All of them are linked below. If any of these moments resonated, the full episodes go much, much deeper. Thank you for listening. Thanks for listening to Why Design. If this episode gave you some new ideas, share it with someone in your team who'd find it useful. And follow the show so you don't miss what's next. And if you're building a product team or looking for your next challenge in design or engineering, that's exactly what we do at Kodu. We help companies hire smarter and faster and help great talent find work that actually fits. I'm Chris Whyte. Connect with me on LinkedIn and let's keep raising the bar for design leadership. Until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and keep asking why design.